You say your heart's been turned to stone. You say you want to be left alone. You say love only made you weep and moan. Let me tell you something that you know in your bones. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. You say your soul's like a dry riverbed. Stop waiting for the water long ago. You said you better pray all night for the rain instead. Love comes like a tidal wave over your head. I said love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. You say waiting for love takes too long. It dulls a sharp mind and weakens the strong.
Well, you may be right, but you may be wrong, 'cause love can make a mountain come a-tumbling down. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock.
The river washes over every woman and man, feet in the gravel and mud in your hands. Nothing can stand against love's command. Every boulder turns into a grain of sand. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the water that wears down the rock. Love is the power that won't be stopped. Love is the water that wears down the rock.
Memorial Day. Take a deep breath. It started out as a time when we got to honor all those people who gave their lives in their service, in armed forces service for this country. Those people who went to war and didn't come home. And so it started out as that time of honoring them, of honoring the sacrifice, that incredible sacrifice that they made in service of the ideals of this country, in service of freedom, in service of everything we stand for. So just take a quick moment and we together, we praise you, we raise you in the name of love. Say it together for all those people who died in the service of our country. We praise you, we raise you in the name of love. Thank you. Let's do it 3 times. Raise you in the name of love. One more time. We praise you. We raise you in the name of love. Thank you all. So Memorial Day has wafted into a celebration of a time of memory for all people that have been close to us that have died. So those people that have contributed to us, who raised us or grandparented us or who were great friends to us. Not just people, also those four-legged friends, those pets that we have had that have sometimes shown us more unconditional love than anybody in our life. So for all of those people who have gone before us, we take this day, this Memorial Day, to remember who they were to us, what they meant to us. And so that's what we're going to do today. One of the things that I also know is that We talked last week, this was billed as a two-part series. Last week we talked about living imaginatively and using that idea about what if? What if our lives could be good instead of saying, oh, what if things just get worse and worse? What if all people could prosper as I prosper instead of, oh my God, if I prosper, then other people are going to suffer. So we started playing with some what if statements that might be more life affirming than some of the what if statements that we used, right? Does everybody remember that? Okay. And so it was all about living imaginatively. And today, I want to also talk about living imaginatively. We're talking about remembering people who have died. But what if we had, even though they've died, what if we somehow had an even deeper sense of their aliveness in our lives than we ever had before? I don't know about you, but when people in my life have died, people that have been important to me, I get very sad. Sometimes I get real mad about the situation, but oftentimes I'm very sad. And just the mention of their names or the memory of something that we used to do together is enough to just take me into tears. But a lot of times there's this overriding thought that they're gone. They're gone. And I've had a couple of instances in my life where I think, well, what if they weren't gone? What if they just changed form? Could I embody that? Could I know that at a deep level? And I guess I kind of liken it to this thing called H2O, what we call water. Two parts of hydrogen, one part of oxygen makes what we call water. That's in these glasses up here. Water can also be ice, a whole different form. It can be water, but it can also be steam. It can be humidity, right? It can show up as all of those things. What about if that's what life and death was like for us? What about if it was just a change of form? What about that thing that causes us aliveness never stops? What if that? So I guess one of the instances that caused me to think that was at one time I had to go into surgery. And my dad was a surgeon. My dad was a great surgeon. My dad was brilliant, but what I loved most about my dad was he was unabashedly supportive of me. It didn't matter if I started out saying, yeah, I'm going to medical school, I'm going to be a doctor just like you. He was like, good job, Sharon. And then I got to school and found out that it was a little too easy to party and a little too hard to study biochem. And so I told him I was changing to psychology. Good job, Sharon. And then I started on a psychology master's degree, and I quit in the middle of it, and I decided to go to Alaska. Good job, Sharon. He was so supportive. He also stitched me up 100 million times and when I'd fall and all of that. And here I was facing surgery, and I was scared. And I was facing surgery, and I wished that I had the best surgeon that I knew, who is my dad. And it occurred to me that I could just call upon him, that there was this thing called life, and why should he not be available to me? If life is ever present, and if life is ongoing, and if life never ends, if this idea of God as life is eternal, then why would my dad not be able to be there with me? And so I called upon him. And I have to tell you that he was there. He was there throughout the whole surgery. I could feel that presence. I could feel even though I was out for most of it, but I knew that he was taking care of stuff. Now, was it him physically? No, but it was the idea of him, that ongoingness, that aliveness that was him, was still with me. And that's why I know that they're not gone. When they choose to step into that other realm, they're not gone. Many of you may know Kathy Thorson, who passed away not quite a year ago. Big presence in this community. Well, sweet Kathy, she and her husband, Mike, own a boat, and she decided that she and her husband and Paul and I were going to get our boats together and offer a Gourmet for God cruise. We're like, what, Michael, what was that you say when Kathy asked you to do something? Yes, Kathy. Yeah, you don't fight with her. Kathy passed away. It was one of the saddest moments of my life. Kathy passed away this past fall. And we had to do a Gourmet for God yesterday. Kathy used to organize everything. I just showed up with balloons. Kathy did everything else. She got the plates, the cups, she did the caterer, she got everything done. She had the marketing done, everything. She wasn't here this time, and I felt kind of lost. So I just looked up and said, Kathy, time to get down here. And I heard this, yes, Sharon. Everything turned out so smoothly. Kathy was always, even if there was weather that was supposed to be horrible, like, 61 degrees, cloudy and rainy, she would say, no problem, I will make it sunny. And she would just pray and call forth sun. Yesterday was one of the most beautiful days. Thank you, Kathy. So for these different reasons, it occurs to me that God has different faces. It's all God. It's all life. It's all ever moving forward. But sometimes God takes on different faces as you, and you, and you, and you. God takes on different faces, and from that place, we emulate the nature of God. We give, we support, we are there for, we're present for people, offering what is ours. Now, from the beginning of time, cultures always had religions that had like a creator god. In Egypt, it was Amun-Ra, and in Greece, it was Zeus, and in Catholicism, it was God the Father. And a lot of religions also have like a mother god, a wisdom god, that was maybe the Mother Mary, or maybe, come on, Linda. No, not Isis, Mother Mary, or, no, that was Goddess of Love, or Pachamama in Peru, or the goddess of love, which was Aphrodite and Isis, right? But do you see how this big thing called God has different faces? Different faces, creator face, love face, mother face, sustainer face, destroyer face. I mean, it has all of these different faces, but it's this thing that we can't ever hope to get our mind around called God, okay? And one of the aspects, the qualities of God is life, ever moving forward, ever sustaining itself, ever supporting. So I grew up being immersed in different faces of God. Because I grew up Catholic. Any Catholics here? Any Catholics who grew up Catholics here? Okay. So, you all remember the rosary, right? Okay, those of you. Now, for those of you who aren't Catholic, the rosary is a string of beads, 55 plus 3, 58 beads plus a cross, okay? And for each of those beads, you have to say a separate prayer. Well, my mom was such a devotee of Mother Mary that she decided from the time I think I was about 4 or 5 years old that we as a family would say the rosary every night together. She had a beautiful, and over the years they got bigger and bigger, a beautiful statue of the Virgin Mary, right? And each of us had our little rosaries around the Virgin Mary, and there were candles around there, and every so often I'd make these long flower lays that went down on the floor, which, yeah. So you get the picture, right? And all of this altar, Gary, you'll appreciate this, sat right on the top of the TV. You know, one of those big TV cabinets. Right on the top of the TV. So every day, right after dinner, before dishes or anything, we would all get down on our knees and pray the rosary, which seemed like 6 hours long at the time when you're little. And Dad wouldn't answer any phone calls, and no friends could visit during that time. We said the rosary as a family every day until I left for college. Okay, so I used to wonder what our friends would think whenever they would come by, and if we didn't answer the phone, they'd go around the yard and start looking in windows. What they must have thought looking in this big picture window to see 12 people on their knees in front of the TV, right? I mean, and here's the worst part. I can remember, nobody else did this. Nobody. None of the Catholics even did it. Really? You say it every night? And so I asked Mom one time, I said, you know, other people pray when stuff is going wrong. Like, can't we just wait for stuff to go wrong? She says, no, we need to bank prayers. And I can appreciate that, having 10 kids. Can you imagine the trouble? She used to go to church. She used to go to church every morning as well. This lady had faith. She would go to church every morning, and the priest, when he came by to give the host to everybody, would give her 2 because she needed a little extra help. But what I know about my mom, like I knew healing. My dad was an incredible healer. What I knew about my mom was she had such great faith. She had such great strength, but she had faith. Nothing could shake her faith. And don't we hear Kathy Ann tell us all the time that you increase your faith by your spiritual practice? This lady had spiritual practice down. And she dragged us all with her. So, but in Science of Mind, sometimes we don't personalize Mary. Oh, I have to tell you one other story. When I was about 5 years old, I used to go to catechism class. Do you ex-Catholics remember catechism class? Well, they didn't have Bible study or children's church. They had catechism class. And one time in catechism class, somebody, one of the teachers asked, does anyone know who the patron saint of finding lost articles is? And I jumped up and I said, St. Anthony! She said, right. Do you know, I never heard the name St. Anthony before. Talk about a lost thing that came to me. But St. Anthony became my patron saint because I could pray for something lost for someone and it would get found. I mean, it just happened. Now, in Science of Mind, we don't really teach praying to gods and goddesses. We don't preach, praying to somebody, okay? We preach that we take those qualities of love and life and intelligence and stuff, and we so embody them. We just embody them so that they actually picture out in our world, correct? Well, I do that. Like if I lose something, like a cell phone or keys or something, I do see it. I call forth the intelligence to know where I last left it. I see it in my hand as if I have it. And if I don't find it within an hour, I pray to St. Anthony. Okay? Just as insurance. Okay? Just as insurance. Always works. So I guess what I'm making this kind of funny, but what I want to say is that, what do I want to say? Okay. Is that sometimes I get distraught enough that I'm on my knees. Sometimes I get distraught enough. There's big stuff like rattles me that I just, like this surgery, for example, I just turn to my dad. Now, am I really praying to my dad? No, I'm not. I'm praying to that life force that embodied the quality of wholeness and health to me. That's what I'm praying for. That's what I'm trying to embody. But it just happens to have my dad's face on it. And in the process, I get this sort of idea that life itself is having a giggle that I would ask it for something. That these people that I adore, that have gone before me, are not really gone. In fact, if I stop to think about it, and I invite you to close your eyes and think about it, can you feel their hands on your shoulders? Can you take your parents or great friends or your first grade teacher, aunts and uncles, and feel their hand on your shoulders saying, we support you, we love you, we want the best for you. That is life, ever pushing us forward, ever supporting us. Can you feel that they are there generation after generation after generation, all wanting nothing but the best for you, cheering for you, encouraging you, giving you little secret tips? Can you feel that? I had a friend from India who came here and to work for Microsoft. He was a young gentleman who deeply, deeply wanted a relationship. He wanted a wife and a family. He knew it was about time, and I'm like, so have you tried like Match.com? Of course, that's like a really old one now, isn't it? But have you tried like internet? He's like, oh yeah, I've tried that. I've tried people trying to set me up with stuff. And he was so sad and so hopeless. And I was trying to figure out what's going on. And he said, in India, my mother would have arranged a marriage for me. In India, my mother would have taken care of finding me my bride. In India, she would have taken care of all the details, and I would just have to walk in, and I would be instant family. In India, that's how it was done. And I looked at him, and he just started to tear up, and he said, and she died 3 years ago. And as I said, there was just this like hopelessness there, like it's never going to happen for me now. And I don't know what made me do this, but something came out of my mouth and said, well, you just need to have a talk with her then. You just need to have a talk with her and tell her she did not complete her work. You need to have a talk with her and tell her there's still time and she can still make this happen. Chip, chip. And I don't know if he ever had that talk with her. I know I had that talk with her. I've never met the woman, but mother to mother, all right? And within 6 months, he was married. Within about a year and a half, he had his first baby. And he's just created this beautiful family ever since. But it was like, was I really talking to his mother? No, but I was talking to this force of life. This force of life that was represented, had the face of his mother, and saying, come on, this is his desire, manifest it. And if it takes talking to his mother, hey, that's one of the most powerful things you can do. So do you see how his mother and her mother and his grandparents were all standing behind him with their hands on his shoulders saying, we want for you the best. We want for you the best. Now, I want to give you guys another picture. You're standing here. Your ancestors and all the people who have affected you beautifully in your life, have supported you, are there with their hands on your shoulders. And you've now got your hands on the shoulders of your children, of your grandchildren, of all the people you are supporting in your life. They may be students. They may be mentees. They may be the lady across the street. But the force of life is causing you to support them, to put your hands on their shoulders and say, I want for you what you want too. Do you realize how powerful that is to give that gift of encouragement, of just, I know who you are. I know goodness for you. So you've got this string of life going all the way back, hand on shoulder, hand on shoulder, hand on shoulder, and you've got this string of life that's ever coming up. People like me are going to be back here in the dead realm, for lack of a nicer term, and my children are going to be looking back and saying, Mom, and their children are going to look back. And we have got stuff right now that we are to give. We have stuff right now that we are to support each other with. Got that? That's your thing. That's your to-do for the week. So, I want you to see this chain of life ever expanding, ever growing, with ever more support, ever more givingness, because that is our job as God. And whether you put a face on that idea of life or not is your choice. It's your choice. For me, sometimes putting a face and a name to it helps me. So I invite you to take a moment and ask yourself, who's in back of me? Who's in back of me with their hands on my shoulder? Is it my mom, my dad? Who has given to me? Who has supported me? Whose shoulders have I stood on so that I can be who I am? Who, whether they are here in this realm or not, is ever still supporting me and cheering for me and just waiting for me to ask for what I want? Who is that for you? And then ask yourself, who is standing in front of me? Whose hands do I have on their shoulder? Is it my children? Is it a person that I'm teaching? Is it just a random kid from across the street who somehow likes to come to your house and hang out? Who's in front of you that one day will look back and say, I need help? And so, I invite you, we're going to do a flower ceremony. I invite you to take your flower or their paw print, because some of us, the being that's most significant in our life is our animal. And so if you would like a paw print to put up on the altar, up here on the altar, raise your hand and you'll get one. Okay, so flower, paw print. If you have extra flowers and you notice somebody that doesn't have and you'd like to share with somebody, please do. If you don't have a flower, then this is the month of living imaginatively. You imagine yourself with a flower and you come up. Is there anybody here that has extra flowers that'd be willing to share? Okay, is there anybody that wants a flower? Okay, there's a flower wannabe back there. Okay, so everybody got there. Anybody else need a flower? Okay, we're good? Okay, so what I'm going to invite you to do is take your flower and take your paw print if you are honoring a pet. And I want you to look at this flower and just see it as the circle of life, ever supporting, ever renewing. I want you to see in this flower the memory of those who have their hands on your shoulder, who have always been for you, who have gone on to the next realm, and yet still, we can still reach them. I want you to also look into this flower and see the potential, all of those in front of you. Generation after generation stretching out in front of you, knowing that however you give to the first of these, that goes on and on and on. I want you to see in this flower and in this paw print the givingness of life. A givingness of life that can't ever be stopped, that goes on and on because we stand on each other's shoulder. And when you are comfortable, when you've held that energy close to you, that you are part of a life sandwich, where you've got the energy of the life in back of you and the life in front of you, when you've got that grounded, then I invite you to please come up and add your flower to the bouquet that will be created and your paw print. Thank you.